Julius puts up a three. Yes! And a goal!
Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. How we doing, everybody? At the start of the 2025 NCAA tournament, the Bearcats aren't dancing, but the arch rival Xavier danced into the next round with a win over Texas on Wednesday night. We won't talk much about that. Got plenty of other Bearcat stuff to discuss, including picking up the pieces, comments from Wes Miller after the Bearcats went 1-1 in the Big 12 tournament and saw their season come to a close with an 18-15 final record in the 2024-25 slate, which unfortunately for Bearcats fans is the exact same final regular season record as in Wes Miller's first season back in 2020. 2021, 2022. I think he went 17-15 actually back in that season, but essentially the same, although much different competition level in this season compared to the AAC run in Wes Miller's first campaign. We'll discuss that at the start of the show. We'll get to Big 12 Pro Days action wrapped up by the linebackers and linemen on Wednesday, with the running backs and skill players getting their workouts in on Thursday at the Star in Frisco, Texas. Before we get to all that, though, got to tell you about Bet Online. It's the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for betting on all the madness. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to a $200,000 bracket contest, Bet Online continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every Cinderella story to every hat trick, Bet Online has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. Bet Online, the game starts here. And Neil, we'll start with Wes Miller's comments following their return back from the Big 12 tournament. Held his final weekly radio show at the Montgomery Inn on Tuesday evening. And big news confirmed, Neil. A GM addition is definitely in the works.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a huge thing to talk about, Russ, because obviously in the new college landscape of NIL and the new landscape of college athletics, adding a GM is huge, even if it's on the basketball side of things, which you see some teams do and some teams are just now getting around to it, like Cincinnati. I think that's a huge addition for Cincinnati, especially with what we mentioned on the previous show with a couple of names that we have heard. This is a big-time addition for Cincinnati, in my opinion, especially being in the best basketball conference in America in the Big 12. You're going to have to navigate NIL. You're going to have to navigate the new landscape of college athletics, and having a GM is a huge way in doing that, especially as they make a transition to year 3 now in the Big 12, which is the most important year, especially for head coach Wes Miller.
Right. It's a lame duck season for Miller, essentially, in terms of his buyout drops tremendously after this upcoming season. I believe it goes from it was at 13 million before April 1st, I believe, this year, and after April 1st in 2026, it drops below 5 million. So much more palatable buyout, much easier to move on from Wes Miller financially if they go a 5th straight season and 7th straight tournament without making the big dance. And I was right. They did go 18-15 with the 1-1 record in the conference tournament back in Miller's first year. Same record again in 2024-25, but obviously, as I mentioned, a lot different conference and roster circumstances this time around than there were in that first season of Miller's tenure. And then, Neil, we also have, it seems like, excitement from the players, excitement from the entire roster to go pursue this college basketball crown opportunity, which, Neil, setting those comments aside and looking at where Cincinnati enters this college basketball crown in terms of the field strength, I mean, they should be thinking they can win this tournament, not easily, but be one of the favorites to win this whole thing. When you think about only Nebraska, Boise State, and I think that's about it are the only teams ranked above Cincinnati on the Ken Palm rankings entering this tournament, with Villanova right there neck and neck at 57 and Cincinnati at 56. Neil, it sounds like these guys are hungry to keep playing, according to Wes Miller, and they're not only hungry to keep playing and keep competing, but also we have an undefined NIL reward for the team to split up at the end of the tournament, some kind of six-figure number that they can split up among the entire roster, similar to how the payout is for the basketball tournament, which is becoming a Cincinnati staple every summer here in the Queen City.
Yeah, and it's a good thing you mentioned too, Russ, about this team being excited to go out and play in the Crown tournament. But for those who kind of have been following the show, the big question is always like, okay, what happens if a player does want to enter the transfer portal? However, it makes sense that this tournament is being played at the time it is, because Russ, I don't know if you knew this, but the Crown tournament is taking place during a dead recruiting period for the transfer portal. So that is why that tournament's being played there, which for Wes Miller is essentially a good thing, because you get more time to recruit your own players back to Cincinnati, which is always a plus, because you know how the new landscape of college athletics is. There's definitely probably some tampering going around between every school in the universe, every school in the country during the season. I mean, we've all heard press conferences about it, but overall, that's a huge thing for Wes Miller. But it's most important that these guys are ready to go out there and potentially go out there and win the Crown tournament, because Russ, like you mentioned, this Crown bracket, there is no reason that Cincinnati should not be thinking, oh, we can't go out here and make some noise. They are very capable of going out to Las Vegas in a few weeks and potentially bringing home the Crown championship for the first time ever, especially with how this brackets look like. I mean, they've already beat Colorado. They've already beat UCF. They've already beat Utah. They've already beat Arizona State. There's 4 teams right there. DePaul's not an easy matchup for the first game, but I mean, you get through there. I think the only team that they've had difficulties with was Villanova, and that was a team where they only lost by just a couple points on the road. So overall, this is an opportunity for Wes Miller and them to go out there and make some noise in the Crown, but also substantially bring home an NIL allotment that can help these players.
Yeah, Neil, a quote from Wes here on the entire Crown. Just the quote, there's no way around it. There's a disappointment of not playing in the NCAA tournament. There's no way around that, but that doesn't take away the joy of competing. Competing is competing. Playing is playing. What else would you rather be doing if you can't play in the NCAA tournament? What else would you rather be doing than going and playing in a basketball game and putting the jersey on again? That's a privilege. That's why we do it, is for those opportunities. So even if it's not exactly where you would choose to do it or what the goal is, you should be grateful for the opportunity to compete. That's how I feel, and that's how I expect our team to feel as well. So a lot of things still up in the air in terms of the roster, how it's going to look once the tournament tips off for Cincinnati on Tuesday, April 1st at 3 p.m. Eastern on FS1. But it sounds like they're going to have a hungry lineup ready to go out there regardless in Las Vegas to pursue the first ever college basketball Crown championship, which we'll dive into the field and what UC looks like in terms of the chances to win this thing more heavily in the next few days, probably in the first show next week. But Neil, tying up the bow on this package of basketball content, Sean Abayev posted on Instagram recently, noting that he has come into the end of his senior high school kind of AAU club, regular high school team season. And he included the Bearcats in the post. Quote, high school, check emoji, crown or trophy emoji, Cincinnati, ... So seemingly still locked in with UC, despite the mediocre season that Cincinnati just had, wearing Cincinnati-themed kicks, Cincinnati-themed Nike kicks at that, going to a Nike school in the Instagram post. 5-star talent. There's been zero rumblings, Neil, of him coming even close to wavering on his commitment to Cincinnati, on his signing with Cincinnati. And this post right here just affirmed that confirmation even more.
Yeah, absolutely. And Russ, it's also worth noting for those who did see the post, if you were good at looking at paying attention to details, you would look at the shoes right there on the heel. Big bold letters, it says University of Cincinnati. So there's never been any question that Sean Abayev would be opting out of this and maybe going a different route. So he is locked in on coming to Cincinnati. He just finished up a tremendous high school career and could be coming into Cincinnati and potentially being the next one and done for Cincinnati if things all go well. If things all play out in the favor that he likes, he's going to come in and make an impact. But overall, that's a great sign to see. And it's worth noting for the fans who listen to this podcast that Sean Mbaev is locked in on Cincinnati and has always been. He stood 10 toes down on the commitment to his national letter of intent. That's even despite after dominating on the overtime elite level, a stellar high school season. Sure, there was options for him to go play professionally somewhere else, but he's going to be locked into Coach Miller for 1 year or maybe even longer, depending how things go. But overall, that's a big time news for Cincinnati.
Hopefully it's just 1 year, because that would mean he's putting up 15 to 20 points per game and absolutely lighting up the Big 12 enough to get lottery looks in the NBA draft. That would be ideal for Cincinnati's outlook in 2025, 2026. Taking a quick break here and then flipping to football as Big 12 Pro Day fun underway out in Texas. This is Bearcat Blitz presented by Bet Online. Neil, Cincinnati football prospects in action out in Texas this week for Big 12 Pro Day. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of Big 12 Pro Day. I don't think it's good for the coverage, Neil. I don't think it's good for the individual access to these athletes. I think it would be way more beneficial social media footprint rise and access wise to have the local pro days for each individual school and allow the local media to more closely highlight the players and the results and all that stuff. But they're doing it this way because they have crunched the numbers and found that this is the best way to feature their athletes for the NFL in their future. So I get that 100%. But Neil, don't necessarily have like lives. There wasn't a live stream of Big 12 Pro Days going on yesterday. They did have coverage of it on NFL Network, but just a few nuggets and notes that came out. You were able to get some interesting notes on some of the times. Let's drop those out there before we say goodbye on this Bearcat Blitz with the linemen and linebackers getting their workouts in on Wednesday, offensive and defensive linemen at that.
Yeah, and it's a good thing you mentioned that too, Russ. Obviously, the local pro days were much better in terms of getting these numbers, but thankfully, moments before we started filming this, I actually got sent the full list of all the times from a source that was directly with the Big 12. So overall, let's start with former Bearcat Deshaun Pace. He ran the second fastest 4D time yesterday, 4.55 unofficial. So a huge day for former Bearcat Deshaun Pace, but you look down, Cincinnati's guys will start with Jared Bartlett. He had 19 reps on the bench press, a 4.65 unofficial 40, which was the sixth fastest out of everybody that ran yesterday. And his max speed was 21.7 miles per hour, which was the second highest. And for all of us who knows, we know Jared Bartlett is a heat-seeking missile when he comes downhill in attack. So that just kind of proves right there. 32-inch vertical and a 9.7 or 9 foot 7 inch broad jump. So overall, a very solid day for Jared Bartlett right there. Eric Phillips ran a 4.81 unofficial, and he even hit 21.17 miles per hour, which was the seventh fastest. 28-inch vert, 8 foot 11 broad jump. So good day for Eric Phillips as well. Luke Kandra, you guys saw the highlights of his broad jump and his vert on social medias if you paid attention. 32.5-inch vert, 9.5 foot broad jump, but he ran a 5.17 unofficial 40. So I believe that was his first 40 he ran, because he did not run in Indy, if I remember right, at the NFL Combine. So that was his first 40 time. D'Artagnan Tinsley went 5.48 unofficial 40, but cranked out 30 reps on the bench press. So for all of our guys who follow this, Coach Nico getting these boys active in the weight room, baby. Offensive lineman has killed it in the weight room. Luke Kandra hit 33 reps at the Combine. DT hits 30 here this weekend. John Williams hit 29 back at the Combine. These boys have been getting to work on the bench press for the offensive line. And on top of it, had a 27-inch vert, 8.7 broad jump. Phil Wilder hit 5.59 on the 40, 27-inch vertical, 24 reps on the bench press. So even Phil Wilder's in there on the action on the bench press, and an 8.4 broad jump as well. So overall, these boys have had a good day. Now, Russ, I can get into the 3-cone and the shuttle drills numbers as well if you want to do that, but obviously depends on who's really looking at those. But Jared Bartlett finished with the quickest 3-cone drill, 7.07 and a 4.4140. Eric Phillips, 7.25 in the 3-cone, 4.45 on the shuttle run. D'Artagnan Tinsley, 7.76 on the 3-cone, 5.2 shuttle. Phil Wilder, 8.01 on the 3-cone drill, 5.09 in the shuttle run. And Luke Kandra finishes it off with a 8.33 3-cone drill and a 4.78 in the shuttle run.
Those are the numbers for the people from the linemen and linebackers. I mean, there's not much analysis to dive into with those. It's just workout numbers. The tape is what is going to largely drive NFL opportunities for these players. And Neil, as we sit here wrapping up the show today, not looking like there's going to be more than one player drafted from the Bearcats coffer of things in the 2025 NFL draft. John Williams, outside chance. Corey Kiner, outside chance. But as of right now, Luke Kandra looks like the only definitive draft pick for Cincinnati going into the 2025 NFL draft. Kandra ranked on the consensus big board 159th overall, while the next closest player on Cincinnati's list of things, as I believe John Williams, checking in at, it's taking a while for me to scroll down here. Yeah, 294th, which would be outside of the pick total. I think it's pick total usually hovers between 256 picks and 260 picks. So he would be outside of that number as well. Same with Corey Kiner, who is sitting at 315th nationally. Nobody else, I don't believe, on the major big board inside the top 400. Yeah, there isn't anybody else. D'Artagnan Tinsley just outside that at 415th overall in this slate of talents. So Luke Kandra firmly in the mix right now, and then some things would have to break John Williams and Corey Kiner's way, it looks like. But Neil, I would expect 5 to 6 guys, probably 6 to 7 maybe, getting NFL camp opportunities at least, let alone Kandra, and maybe 1 or 2 more getting drafted.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of safe to say Luke Kandra's going to hear his name called. Now it depends what round. Probably going to be anywhere from third on.
Come on, Bengals. Overall, 4th round. If he's sitting there for you in the middle of that 4th round,
keep the local talent home, Cincinnati.
Pull the trigger.
Keep the local talent home. I don't think
we could surely use. We were talking about how they didn't really need Ivan Pace a couple years ago, Neil, but they could use him right now.
Have him.
They could use him right now, that's for sure. But continue, I'll cut you off.
So. But yeah, keep the local talent home if you're Cincinnati. I mean, no other better than, I mean, we saw it with Jawan Briggs a couple years ago too. Last year, I know they talked to him after Pro Day, but they got to keep these local guys home. That's the biggest thing. If you're Cincinnati, let's keep these local guys home, right?
Right. This especially is a big when it makes sense. Like the timing didn't necessarily make sense for Pace, although it would have been just a 7th round pick. That's all they had to spend on him. I mean, who cares about timing once you get to that range? Just get the talent when the talent's there. The timing and the talent is working out here for Cincinnati, Neil. As we record this right now, the Bengals don't have any starting guards. They don't have a single starting guard on the roster. I would not count Cordell Volson as a bona fide starter in the NFL. He has not played at that level in his career. So Luke Kandra could immediately step in and be able to make an impact for the Cincinnati Bengals, especially at a nice value range in the middle of that 4th round, if he is there for Cincinnati. In their slot of 6 selections, which I believe is right there where he's projected to go.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting too.
Pick 119, Neil, in the 4th round, which Kandra, what did I say he was at? He is the 115th, 109th ranked player on the big board, something like that. Here,
and it's also worth noting too, a lot of scouts have been raving about Luke Kandra, especially after the Senior Bowl and the East and West Shrine Bowl. You've seen a lot of tape come out of him, and these scouts have been raving on him about social media about he could become a all-pro guard because of his abilities, right? He's a big time guard. Russ, I know you and I talk about how much he can really help an offensive line. He is a huge force up there in the trenches for not only Cincinnati, but for whatever team drafts him. And the biggest thing is, you're going to get a coachable kid, a very polite kid in Luke Kandra as well. You and I have always had plenty of good conversations with Luke. There is nothing nothing negative to say about him. He goes out of his way, checks in on his people, checks in on us. Whatever team gets Luke Kandra, it's not only getting a steal, but they're getting a great person as well.
I would agree with you on that. And Kandra, actually, Neil, even more reason for Cincinnati to take him, because he is projected to land at the 159th selection, and Cincinnati holds the 153rd selection. And that would be a 5th round pick. Don't even have to use the 4th round pick necessarily to get Luke Kandra. That would be a solid investment, in my opinion, and a way to keep the Elder grad, the UC grad, UC product in town for his third stint of football in the Queen City. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz, presented by Bet Online. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.
This is the second. 15 seconds left. Shot clock off. 4-point game. DeJulius puts up a 3.